Today I'm going to talk just a little bit about how retirement sometimes feels great, but then again, sometimes it doesn't. And the question is, what really happens after the honeymoon phase, that honeymoon phase of retirement that's supposed to be excitement and freedom and all that stuff, with no alarm clock and no commute and no meetings, no one telling you where you need to be or what you need to get done today. At first, it often feels, I think, a little bit nervous. You sleep a little bit later, you take a trip here and there, you work around the house, you enjoy a good cup of coffee in the morning, you're not checking the alarm clock, and you finally start doing, some of those things, that you kept saying you always would do someday. But then this unexpected thing happens. After the first several weeks, that feeling of freedom begins to fade away. The days, they start to seem like they're running together, and you feel restless, you feel nervous, you feel unmotivated, disconnected, and maybe even a little bit lost. And that can be confusing. I understand that because you worked for years to reach retirement. So why doesn't it feel like it's as satisfying as you expected it to be? I want to explain why the retirement honeymoon phase can become a trap. The 4 things your job used to provide without you realizing it, and simply providing a rhythm that can help retirement begin to feel meaningful again. I think the retirement honeymoon phase sometimes can become a trap. For the first 6 to 8 weeks, or maybe sometimes even longer, retirement can feel, like an extended vacation. You're relieved to be finished with deadlines, workplace stress, difficult coworkers, long commutes, and the constant pressure to perform. You finally have permission to slow down. That initial relief feels good, and you should enjoy it. But the problem is that relief alone it can't create a fulfilling life. Sleeping late, I guarantee, is enjoyable when it sometimes even feels like a treat. After a while, however, waking up without a reason to get out of bed, it feels empty. Having nothing on the calendar sometimes can feel peaceful, but sometimes it feels like you're lost. That's when the void begins to open up, and you start asking yourself questions like, what am I supposed to do today? Is this really what retirement's going to be like? Why am I not happier? Why am I not excited? Why do I feel guilty? Why am I feeling guilty about not being productive? And who am I now that I'm no longer working? You see, this is where a lot of retirees mistakenly conclude that something must be wrong with them. For decades, your job gave you shape to your days. It told you when to wake up, where to go, what needed to be done, who needed to depend on you. And, even if you didn't love your job, it provided an identity, a routine. It provided relationships and challenges and a sense of success, a sense of progress. Retirement doesn't automatically replace those things. That's why that honeymoon phase can become a trap. It can lead you to believe that freedom from responsibility will be enough to make you happy. Most people don't thrive with unlimited freedom and no direction. We thrive when we have freedom combined with meaning. The goal is not to recreate the stress of your career. The goal is to intentionally rebuild the healthy things that your career once provided. The 4 buckets that replace a job, I've created these. A fulfilling retirement usually needs 4 important elements: structure, purpose, connection, and movement. Bucket number 1, structure. That first bucket is important. Structure doesn't mean creating a rigid schedule where every hour is planned out for you. Retired because you wanted more freedom, not because you wanted to become your own demanding supervisor. What you need is a loose rhythm, a rhythm that gives your day a beginning, a middle, and an end. It creates what I call a few anchors maybe that keep the entire day from drifting away. Your morning anchor might include waking up around the same time or getting dressed at the same time, making your coffee at the same time, reading, praying, journaling, whatever. The specific activity matters less than the consistency. Getting dressed can be surprisingly important. When you remain in pajamas until noon, it can signal to your mind that the day hadn't really started yet and nothing important is going on. Monday could be your planning and household day. Tuesday could include volunteering or working on a personal project. Wednesday might be exercise day or maybe lunch with a friend. Friday could be reserved for something that you really enjoy doing, maybe a movie, who knows. The purpose of structure is not to restrict your freedom, it's to protect you from aimlessness. Bucket number 2, the purpose bucket. Purpose is something that matters way beyond your own comfort. For many years, I think, your purpose may have been connected to what you did for a living. Raising your family maybe, providing financially, solving problems, or being the person people could just depend on. Retirement changes your responsibilities, but it doesn't remove your need to matter. Purpose can take many forms. You might mentor some younger volunteer in your community, maybe serve at your church or care for a family member. Maybe you could start a small business, teach a skill, write a book, create videos, lead a group. Who knows? All kinds of things. Purpose doesn't have to be large, public, or impressive. And you don't need to start a nonprofit organization or change the entire world, believe me. You simply need something that allows your experience, your knowledge, your compassion, and your abilities to benefit someone else besides you. What do I want to do? It is, where can I still be useful? That question often leads to a much deeper form of fulfillment. Bucket 3, connection. The third bucket is important. When people retire, they often underestimate how much social contact their job provided. Every coworker wasn't a close friend, but they were a friend. People asked for your opinion all the time. You shared stories, you solved problems. After retirement, your social world can become smaller. And this can place too much pressure on you, on your spouse. Both of you need relationships and interests outside the marriage. Connection might come through a church group, a volunteer organization, fitness class, all kinds of ideas. The key is to make at least one connection recurring. A standing commitment, believe me, is more effective than saying we should just get together sometime. Healthy retirement requires people who know you're the person you're becoming, not only the employee or professional you used to be. That's important. And finally, bucket number 4, movement. The fourth bucket is movement. During your working years, physical activity may have been built into your day. You moved between meetings, stood at a counter, visited clients, or simply got up and down more frequently from your desk. After retirement, movement often decreases. You may spend more time sitting, watching television, or using your phone, or reading, or just playing with the computer. That's why physical activity needs to be built into your schedule instead of just left to happen circumstance. Movement doesn't have to mean exercise. It could mean walking in the morning or just working in the garden, maybe swimming or riding a bike down the street, taking a senior fitness class, maybe dancing or just playing with your grandkids. The best form of movement is the one you can do consistently. Don't rely on motivation. Just put it on the calendar. When movement is scheduled, it becomes part of your routine, part of your schedule, part of your life. When it's left to chance, it's the first thing that's going to disappear, believe me. Movement supports your physical health, but it also affects your mood, your mind, your energy, your confidence, your sleep. It's not an optional extra. It's one of the foundations of satisfying retirement. Now, what does a realistic retirement week look like? Let me show you what this can look like in real life. It's not an hour-by-hour schedule, and it's not meant to become another full-time job. It's simply a weekly rhythm. One client I worked with, he hadn't entered a retirement expecting to feel relieved and excited. Instead, after several months, he was feeling like every day was Saturday. At first, that sounded great. Eventually, it meant there was no real beginning or end of the week. He didn't need a busier life. He needed more intentional one. We began by anchoring his mornings. Most mornings he got up at approximately the same time, got dressed, made coffee, spent a few quiet minutes reading and planning his day. That morning anchor gave him momentum before distractions could take over. And distractions happen to all of us. A purpose block is simply a protected period of time devoted to something meaningful to us. For him, that included mentoring a young business owner and spending time organizing information he eventually wanted to turn into a workshop. The blocks were only a few hours long, and they didn't dominate his week, but they gave him something important to prepare for, something important to think about. Every Thursday morning, he met a small group of men for breakfast. He didn't have to text everyone each week and wonder whether someone was going to come or not. It was already on the calendar. That one recurring activity gave him regular connection and helped him divide the week into recognizable sections. Finally, he scheduled one thing each week that he could look forward to. Some weeks it was dinner with friends. Other weeks it might have been going fishing or time spent on a hobby. The activity didn't have to be expensive or elaborate. It just needed to be scheduled. It needed to be something he could look forward to, something he could be emotionally attached to. And it gave the future a positive shape for him. His week wasn't packed. He still had open time. He could rest. He could be spontaneous. He could do absolutely nothing if he wanted to. But the open space was now surrounded by meaningful anchors. He simply created a vision of that weekly rhythm that might look important. Mornings anchored with a routine, 2 or 3 purpose blocks each week, 1 standing social commitment, 3 or 4 scheduled opportunities for physical movement, 1 enjoyable activity maybe to activate. That's enough to begin changing how retirement feels. Retirement, folks, is not simply the end of work. It's the beginning of a new season that requires new design. During that honeymoon phase, you may enjoy having no schedule and no responsibilities, but when the initial relief wears off, don't panic. It doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It simply means your old life provided structure, connection, movement, purpose, and your new life hasn't replaced them yet. You don't need to fill every hour. You don't need to become as busy as you were before. You simply need a few meaningful anchors. Build a rhythm for your days. Find something that allows you to contribute. Create some relationships beyond your spouse. Schedule movement instead of hoping something happens. And always keep one thing on the calendar that you can look forward to. A successful retirement, folks, isn't a permanent vacation. It's a life that still gives you reasons to get up, people to connect with, ways to contribute, experiences that make you look forward to what comes next. If you're entering retirement or have already retired and feel something's missing, take a few minutes today and ask yourself this question. Which of these 4 buckets is the emptiest one in my life right now? Structure, purpose, connection, movement? You don't have to fix them all at once. Choose just one bucket and add one simple activity to your calendar this week. That one decision may be the beginning of a retirement that feels, well, not only free, but genuinely fulfilling. Hey, it's been my pleasure, Bill Bergfeld, and I hope you have a great, great day. Take care. Bye now.